think that I understand what would be motivating people to do it. It's a very political issue and there's a lot of emotions on every side of the issue. So I'm not going to pretend for a moment that I don't understand that certain people would want to take that kind of action, but I don't really think it's fair because it's not really putting the energy where it needs to be focused to really address what their root concerns are. I think that in some ways there's a chance that the boycotts could backfire on the people that want to use that as a tool to advance their agenda, in that it's going to cause the people that were responsible for the legislation in the first place to sort of rally around their perspective, to sort of galvanize their perspective around their political agenda because they feel attacked from the outside. And so, I think probably what would be more appropriate is using this as an opportunity to force a national debate and discussion about the broader issue of immigration reform. So, so I think that it's probably not necessarily having its intended effect because I haven't heard any kind of groundswell of public opinion that says, hey, we need to repeal this legislation because of the boycotts. And I would assume that's why and what was motivating some of the people that were advancing boycotts in the first place. It could very well, most negatively affect the people in Arizona who can least afford to have that kind of impact, because the first jobs probably that would be cut would be jobs that are in that service sector, taking care of tourists, taking care of people that are in Arizona for business purposes, travel, that kind of thing. And so, unfortunately, the possible sort of first victims of a boycott would be the people that can, least afford to have, that kind of impact. So, that would be a real challenge and a real problem, and really sort of an unfortunate outcome of the boycotts. I think I understand what's motivating people to have the kind of reaction that they've had and to want to take some kind of action. But I think for sure that the boycotts is not the right action to take. I think the appropriate thing to do would be to sort of use this as a catalyst to focus on the broader question of immigration reform. And it's really a national issue. It's not really an Arizona issue. It's not really any particular state. It's a national issue. And fundamentally, I think what's going on here is the state of Arizona people, the leadership, feel that they have for a long time been pleading with the federal government to take some sort of action and to take a leadership role to deal with some of the consequences of the failed policies right now of immigration. And that, to overgeneralize it, some of those pleas have been falling on deaf ears, and so there was really no choice, I believe, that they feel, but to sort of take action on their own. And so really the issue is around sort of the national question of immigration reform. So to answer your question, what I think would be most appropriate is, rather than go down the path of doing boycotts or vilifying Arizona, to use this as a catalyst to really force a national debate, to focus the Congress and the executive leadership of our country on the question of immigration reform, and to see if once and for all we can't come up with an approach that really is works for all the different complicated variables that are involved in this equation, but it's not going to get solved by not doing anything. And so it would be more appropriate if we used this as a catalyst to really focus on this national issue of immigration reform. What we don't need here is a continued polarization and a sort of politically charged, hateful kind of dialogue, but rather, what we need is, to seek some sort of consensus and seek some sort of long-term solutions with, with the federal government for, solutions to this issue.